Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Covering both sides of the big issues with the analysis you trust on News Radio 1040 WHO.
Iowa has the second highest rate of new cancers in the United States. The stats are so disturbing that you'll recall Governor Kim Reynolds talked about it in her Condition of the State address. And here's some other disturbing news now about cancer rates in Iowa and across the nation. The new face of cancer is younger and female. Young females getting cancer at an alarming clip. On the Davison Family Dentistry Newsmaker line this morning is an expert in early cancer detection. He lost his sister to cancer, prompting him to found Cancer Check Labs, where he serves as CEO. That is Sumit Rai back on the Davison Family Dentistry Newsmaker line on this Monday morning. Good morning, Sumit. Welcome back, and we're glad to be talking to you about this important topic. Welcome back to WHO.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
So, Sumit, I know this is a topic that's really close to your heart. What is going on with this alarming rise in cancer rates among young women?
There's rates are rising in general. Obviously, young women as well as the younger population. There's a lot of factors that are contributing to cancer today. Number one, we have lifestyle factors. I think we're very sedentary, and being sedentary contributes to metabolic disease. And what that does is it increases obesity, it increases metabolic syndrome. All of those things create a breeding ground for erroneous cellular replication, essentially precancerous cells to be formed. And what that's doing is it's causing environments where we have these precancerous cells being created in our bodies, and our immune systems are unable to sort of capture them and destroy them at the rate that they need to because of how many we're creating. The second thing that's happening is we're eating too frequently. And because of that, our bodies are unable to execute a process known as autophagy, which is basically your cellular recycling program inside your body that kills these precancerous cells in periods of fasting. We don't fast like we used to, and I think that's causing problems. And the third thing is we're having a lot of product exposure, and I think that's where women have even more exposure than men. They use a lot more cosmetics. If you look at things like, Red 3, the lipstick dye that was banned recently in food, as well as that additive. If you look at sort of acne products like benzoyl peroxide, which is not heat stable and turns into benzene, there's so many of these additives that are doing toxicity in our bodies. They're creating effectively environments and chemicals getting into our bloodstream that are causing these precancerous cells, which is making cancer rates rise, unfortunately. It's a really big problem.
It's a very big problem, Sumit. And I was introducing you by talking about the governor speaking on this in her state of the Condition of the State address. She brought up binge drinking as a possible cause. And Sumit, the reason that this conversation between you and me is important this morning is I think when people hear that we're going to study the causes of cancer, they think that there's some outside factor that is doing this to us that we have to get under control or we can't control. But are we, in fact, if we're to be honest about this, Sumit, are we doing this to ourselves?
Yes and no. So, cancer is an interesting thing in that there's sort of two factors that play into it. One is your genetic predisposition. Are you just sort of predisposed based on your genetics and family history in your body itself? And the second is environmental and toxicity. It's not generally one or the other that causes cancer. It's some intersection of the two. So, for example, there are people that will drink, that will binge drink, that will smoke, that will never exercise, and they'll live till 100 and they'll never get cancer. And then there are people that will do everything right, that will never have a drop of alcohol, that will never smoke a cigarette, that will do everything they should for a healthy lifestyle, and unfortunately will develop cancer very, very young. And so what ends up happening is your predisposition to it based on your genetic profile is something that can be triggered. And I think what happens is when you have environmental toxicity and you have lifestyle factors, you tend to trigger that predisposition. Now, your risk of triggering it depends on how much predisposition you have. And so it really is an interplay between the two. It's not one or the other. It's one that can trigger the other. And so it's just a measurement of risk at the end of the day.
And obviously, Sumit, you are very passionate about testing, and it sounds like that becomes very, very important given all of the stats that you and I are talking about. Test and find out if something's going on so you can treat it early. Is that the correct way to approach this?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the key to curing cancer is early detection. Survival at stage 0 is 99%. That's why we developed the test we did at Cancer Check Labs. We have the ability that we can detect any solid tumor, means breast cancer, lung, prostate, pancreatic, liver, bladder, brain, all the organ tumors, from a blood draw at stage 0. And if you can do that, again, survival is so high, that's when you can really eradicate it. The problem with cancer today is that most cancer types don't have a standard screen. We only screen for 5 types of cancer, and those include breast cancer, which is a mammogram. Those include colorectal cancer, which is a colonoscopy, prostate PSA, cervical, which is pap smear, and lung CT for lung. Now, within that, people have to understand that most people will not do a lung CT unless you have some major risk factors, history, you're a smoker, you're an avid smoker, you're not going to be ordering lung CT. And then depending on your gender, you're not going to do all the other 4. If you're male, you're not going to do a mammogram, you're not going to do a pap smear. If you're female, you're not going to do a PSA for prostate. So if you're female, really what you're doing is kind of a mammogram for breast, a pap smear for cervical, and a colonoscopy for colorectal. And if you're male, you're doing a PSA for prostate and you're doing a colonoscopy for colorectal. And that's it. There's nothing that they do for pancreatic, liver, bladder, stomach, gastric, esophageal, brain, skin, thyroid, adrenal. All that's missing. And so what we did at Cancer Check Labs was develop a test that enables you to detect, that can detect any of those tumors, broad spectrum from a blood draw, which is very necessary in the market because you need to capture those. Pancreatic is a great example of this. Pancreatic cancer is considered a death sentence. Pancreatic cancer is not a death sentence. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer is probably a death sentence. Stage 1 pancreatic cancer is curable. They typically never find it. The only way they really find it is that they're doing a procedure in an adjacent organ like your liver. They notice an abnormality on the pancreas. They biopsy it. They confirm they have pancreatic cancer, and they go, oh, we found stage 1 pancreatic cancer. When that happens, which happens rarely, stage 1 is broken into 1A and 1B. Survival at 1B is 85%. Survival at 1A is 92%. Survival at stage 0 is 99%. And that's why detecting it early is so important. It dramatically changes the odds of survival and the ability to treat the cancer.
And this conversation this morning is so important. That is Sumit Rai, CEO of Cancer Check Labs. Sumit, great conversation. Thanks for talking with us this morning.